So let's talk it. So I mean, for people who don't know or whatever, living under a rock.
I don't know how you could not know. It has permeated the pop culture that you can't turn anywhere without seeing that Pennywise image somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
Those red lines, like the smile that goes up into his eyes,
Yes. Yeah. Oh, and there's there's a new paperback with that image floating in white. And I took a picture of it because the 3 short pull quotes on the back are glorious. One is from the Los Angeles Times. It says, "It will overwhelm you. Characters so real you feel you are reading about yourself. Scenes read to only be read in a well-lit room." Second one from the Chicago Times says, "A great book, a landmark of American literature." And finally from the Los Angeles Herald Examiner, "The Moby Dick of horror novels." But yeah, that image is everywhere. I have, I got this. This is for you to see, I guess, not because we don't have video. But I got this like Stephen King. They have them in the grocery stores, and it's like I don't want to say how much it is, but it's more than it should be. But it's like a collection of articles from Entertainment Weekly and else, and a lot of photos like of him on the back of this motorcycle.
Oh, that's so awesome!
But it's got Pennywise on the front, and yeah, so it's the second part / sequel to the 2017 adaptation.
And in my opinion, having gone through the better part of his collection of books, I do not think his writing is any better than in that. But in critics will even say like that's the peak of his writing ability, like the best showcase of his talent.
Nice.
And I agree with that. It's
a favorite of mine for sure.
Flawless storytelling and just in rapture. It's so good, and all of that is true. I didn't even grow up in the 50s or early 60s, and but when you hear them talking about being kids, he nails it. Just nails it.
Yeah, that's really timeless, that whole kid thing.
Yeah. Well, and the proof is this adaptation, because they moved it up into the 80s, and it still covered all the same big pieces were there. The rock fight and all that stuff is timeless,
Yeah, and it didn't, I don't know, like the world hadn't changed enough up until that point from like updating it from the 50s. It's like the internet wasn't a thing, and cell phones weren't there, so it's like the world was similar enough that they didn't have to change any of the beats to update it to 1989, which is what the 2017 covered, like the kids in 1989. And
I will just preface this before we start getting into the movies, because I know we're trying to get in there, but I will just preface though, because I had Stan the Man was like, "Hey, do you have 15 minutes to talk Stephen King with my daughter?"
With his daughter?
Yeah.
Interesting.
High school age daughter.
Yeah, even so.
Yeah. Who had gone with her friends to go see It Chapter 2. And at first I was like, because I'm thinking of her being this big, but she's a high schooler.
Mm-hmm.
That's the like top demographic that they're trying to get in movie theater seats, right? Are those high schooler kids, right? So of course she's going to go see it. But the part that, and this is my PSA, is like, don't spoil if you've only seen the movie, like do yourself a favor and go consume the book in some way, because it's so good. Don't get on Wikipedia to try to answer questions and then spoil everything that the book, because she knew everything about the book, like all the worst pieces of the book. There's a part of the book that is unfilmable.
Yeah, we should talk about it. We're gonna, because it's gonna come up. We don't have to talk about it right now, but we did a whole episode on it. I can't remember the number. I'll find out, but this would be our sequel to that.
Yeah,
in which we definitely get into that and other things. But so just so I understand, he had you talk to her before she went to the movie or after?
No, she just had a bunch of questions like, what does this mean, and what does this mean, and what does that mean? And the answer I kept going back to was like, just go get the book, go read the book. And they talk about that more in the book. Who is Pennywise, and how has he been there that long, and where does his magic come from? go get the book, and you're not going to get straight answers on any of that. Just so you know,
you don't want them really. I don't think.
No, I think that's part of it. And I think that's one of the messages that Stephen King is continually trying to, like, with lack of a better term, beat into our head as readers of his work, is that it's not about the answers. It's not about and I think this is what inspires, because some of our favorite people from the early 2000s were definitely like J.J. Abrams and David Lindelof and a lot of the people associated with Lost were kind of like obsessed with Stephen King. Oh man!
Even the Star Wars, like the Force, once you start breaking down what the Force is in midichlorians, it ruins it.
Yeah,
mystery is important.
That mystery is important, and so it's about the journey. It's not about the destination. It's not about the answers, and so you're not going to get a straight answer on probably a lot of the questions like that you might have. But do yourself a favor that if the movie is the only way that you know this story and you enjoy it, do yourself a favor. And I would go even one step further and say, even if you're not an audiobook fan,
this is a good one.
This is the one to like make. If you can't get pulled into Steven Weber's reading of it, then you're right. You're not an audiobook person. But I can't imagine anybody not being into. He reads it so well, with such passion, and really turns it into an audio drama versus just him reading the book.
What is our Audible? Our Audible is /LWSD, right?
audibletrial.com/LWSD.
Yeah, you can listen to it on
for
us.
free on us. Yeah, like sign up for your free Audible trial and you get an audiobook on us. That's how I actually listened to that version of it.
Is it? Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So
you're the one.
Yep.
And you listening can be the second.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a big motherfucker of a book, right? Like when I picked up the paperback, it's huge. I don't know how many hours.
It's a giant book and that spans multiple decades and does a great job of jumping between those timelines.
I love that idea that they're creating an intercut version. That just would basically probably follow the structure of the book from the two films.
Well, and I think there's more that he filmed that didn't end up. Like, I think it would be a director's cut on top of it being this super cut.
Wow.
Like,
I am so on board for that. Andy, do you know how to say his name?
No.
Andy Muschietti? I don't know.
Muschietti.
But he's a name I hadn't heard before, but I need to learn because he's done such great work with these.
Yeah, he did just a fantastic job. He did another big horror movie, I think, that he was talking about.
Oh, I got it up here. I'm sorry, I keep jumping in, but you were talking about, talking to Stan the Man's daughter about all of this.
Yeah, but she was just asking those kind of, and I mean, she wants to know like what Pennywise is, and it's like, all right, well, so my response to that would, like, of course, any good question is answered with another question. So I was like, okay, you want to know what Pennywise is and where he comes from? Do you know who H.P. Lovecraft is? And she's like, no. So then it's like, okay, well, now this talk is going to be about H.P. Lovecraft and not about Stephen King.
Interesting.
If you want to know what Pennywise is, so H.P. Lovecraft was obsessed with this concept of what he called the Great Old Ones, who was this like interdimensional race of super beings who look on us like we're insignificant, like we look on ants. And sometimes, like, these creatures are so alien to us, but they're not necessarily aliens. They are literally from another dimension who kind of put our dimension into work, and we're kind of like the puppets to them, like, again, like we're this thing that just like gets kicked down the road by them that they don't really care about because they're these interdimensional super beings, right? And one of his stories, I think it's called In the Mouth of Madness, is about a man who just briefly is able to glimpse that dimension, and it drives him mad because it's so outside of our comprehension and understanding. And so Stephen King is a huge H.P. Lovecraft fan, so that idea of the great old ones is something that he kind of has embraced and brought in, and that's it is rumored, because nobody has a straight answers, but the leading fan theory is that Pennywise was one of these great old ones that kind of got thrown into our dimension, like when Earth was created or when our universe was created in the Big Bang. It like Pennywise is one of those creatures that kind of like landed here on Earth, and because he is this like otherworldly creature, the normal environmental stuff really wasn't enough to take him out, so he kind of like hibernated for millions of years until there was like, because they imply that in the book and a little bit in this movie, how he's kind of been here forever, right? Mm-hmm. And it took man getting into that area for him to finally find food, because he kind of lives on the psychic emotion as much as he does the meat. Like the meat feeds the physical portion of him, but really he really is being fed by the like psychic energy. That's why he kills children, because it's easier to scare children.
Yeah, feeds off their fear.
And then feeds off their fear. So,
but it seems like a general evil too, like in Derry.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Stephen King talks about it as like a haunted town.
Yeah, and it's implied that it is the result of Pennywise just literally being in the roots of the town. Mm-hmm. So I took her through like H.P. Lovecraft, and then she was like, well, and I know about the kid orgy, and I'm like, it's so like.
And how old is she? She's a teenager.
She's a freshman. So she's like like 15, 14,
which is
15, 16.
That's like the age of the kids, like a little bit
younger. No, they're
younger
than that. Yeah, they're younger than that. Like, it's so, and I'm like, you're really way ahead of yourself with this book, and like, it's unfortunate that scene is in that book, because it's so perfect otherwise, but it is like this icky sticking point. And I was like, and it's really one of those things that it's like, you just can't judge the whole rest of the book. If that's the first thing that you know about it going into it, it's going to be hard. Like, how would you not read it now wondering, like, oh, is this when the kid orgy is going to happen? Is it now? Is it now? You know, like,
I knew there was something awful coming, or something that you didn't like, that Stan the Man didn't like, because I broke my chronology in the Stephen King, like what he wrote and when it came out, to consume it so that I could see the movie in theaters and stuff, and that really hurt my crazy, but it was worth it.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what that horrible thing was going to be. And I don't think I ever could have guessed that it would have been that, Like, I thought it would be something like especially horrific, or something. And it turned out to just be this really like unfortunate story turn.
Yeah.
I mean, it is horrific in its own way, but.
And there's a character who kills his baby brother in that book, that like all that goes into detail, who also like lets puppies like does awful things inside a refrigerator and lets animals like kind of starve to death in that thing, and all that stuff's really hard to stomach. But all of that aside, it's like, this one thing though, it's like everything else that's horrific, that's the piece that. And even Stephen King himself says, it always amazes me how all anybody wants to talk about is that sex scene at the end, but nobody cares about all the kids that are killed brutally and like ruthlessly preceding that in the book.
Yeah.
Which is, it's true.
I don't know.
So I don't want to,
because he's got kids fucking, and he's got kids like all. It's so disturbing. It's so disturbing that it's indefensible. Do you think that that's what? Sorry to jump around, but
no, that's okay.
Do you think that is the allusion to when everyone in the new movie in the chapter 2 where they keep talking about is it Bill becomes the author, right?
Yeah.
So Bill Denborough as the horror author, and everyone's like, "Oh, I love your work, but the ending."
Oh well, so
I don't remember that from the book. Is that in the book?
No, that it definitely is a nod to Stephen King. I think he predominantly is kind of ribbed for his endings.
Oh, in general. Oh,
in general,
okay.
yeah. And that's like the piece that people, and he even admits that's like the hardest. Sometimes that's the hardest part for him to write is the ending. So he gets ribbed for that, but I think that this is a direct, more and I didn't even piece that together. Probably a more direct route of like, and I can even think. Maybe the director Andy Muschietti, because he also wrote. I think. No, he did not.
I thought so too, but I guess it's and actually I'm looking at so Chase Palmer.
Maybe I'm looking at a different thing. Writers Gary Dauberman.
Well, I'm looking at 17. Sorry, I'm trying to get.
Okay. So. I could see, though, him probably dealing with a little bit of that while he was making this. Like, where I could see him feeling the pressure. Or maybe his writers even put it in, feeling that pressure of, like, we're going to shoot this tomorrow. Like, we're obviously not having the kid orgy. Like, what are you, like, yeah. Give me the ending. Like, how are you going to wrap this up if we don't have the kid orgy? Because we can't do that.
You don't need it. You could just throw it like in the TV movie from 1990 and this, like, you just take it out. Everything's fine.
Like, everything's fine. Like, why can't you just have, so the point of it, and we talk about this a lot, and I hate giving so much lip service.
It's episode 33 is where we talk about all of the things.
I just can't. I can't. We can't give it all the lip service like we did the last time.
No, all that's there. We can just talk about.
But the whole purpose of it is to show like their connection is falling apart after they defeat Pennywise the first time, and they're gonna die in the sewers and get lost. And they need to be just as connected as they were going into the fight to survive it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the last bastion of like Pennywise's powers is going to like still, it's like the cost of them defeating him. And Bev, whose whole fear is becoming a woman, that's why he can only take the form of blood around her, because she's worried about getting her period.
Mm-hmm.
Decides the best way and the only way that they can all reconnect is if each one of them has sex with her. It's just fucked up.
The Chasing Amy ending. We all have to have sex together.
Yeah. And then none of them want to do it. Like nobody wants to do it
because they're children. Oh man.
And they do, and it magically works, and they're all connected again because they're all Eskimo brothers.
Oh.
And
no. Oh. I don't know what it says about me and my sexual hangups that disturbs me so much as a thing in general, but I feel like once you translate that thing to kids, it's universally fucked up. Like it's fucked up, man. There's no way. Like you said, it's indefensible. And thank God the movie doesn't include it.
Yes. And after I did such a big push to listen to the book, now I'm just like, except for this, like,
yeah, but it happens in the book. I don't feel like it lasts for very long. It is not what sticks with you about the book. It's like a footnote and like, I wish this hadn't happened.
And we're talking about it again for now 20 minutes.
But then you add the layer of fucked upness that you had to talk about it with a high school student.
Yeah.
And then
try to defend it, like try to make a case of why you should still listen to the book. Yeah, that's in there, but you should still get this book.
Gosh,
you know,
yeah.
like
I mean, so there's the book. There's the original book that came out in 1986.
I think that's right. Yeah.
which is glorious. I read those review things and whatever, reviewers be damned, but like it's a very well regarded book by all sorts of audiences for very good reason. So to read it on the page is wonderful. The audiobook by Steven Weber is a tour de force that I can't say enough good things about. Like I came to it recently, and that then there's the TV movie, which is from 1990 and does feel somewhat dated, with Tim Curry as Pennywise the Clown, and
but that performance is worth it. Like his performance as Pennywise, I think.
I didn't see that until I was an adult and had read the book, and I think even probably seen chapter 1 of the new adaptation, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, honestly. And it's weird to me in some ways that 1990 TV movie was able to somehow fit in things from the book, even like not just like the way that they handled it, but like altogether different and more things from the book than the two movies combined. Like, so that kind of is its own thing that I would say is worthwhile. If
I think that was a much more, I think the TV miniseries was a much more faithful adaptation of the book.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Because it aside from the kid sex scene,
which also wisely left out.
Yeah.
And now these new pair of movies are like their own. So like each of those things is very worthwhile in its own right if you are into the story. Like they all add dimension to it and bring out various elements.
And then this one, chapter 1 and chapter 2, and ultimately I'm hoping that this was successful enough. The one article I read about this supercut that he wants to make, that article was like, but Quentin Tarantino wanted to make what's the Kill Bill?
Oh, the whole bloody affair.
The whole bloody affair. Like that article called that out. They were like, we were supposed to get the whole bloody affair from Tarantino, and only Japan got that. So I hope we get to see that supercut.
Oh man, me too.
Man, it would be so good.
Well, and this is like one of the more successful King adaptations or even horror movies of all time, right? Like the part 1.
Yeah.
That might go a long way toward that whole thing.
All right, so let's talk about chapter 2, and then we'll talk about more King stuff.
Yes. So you first texted, you reiterated it earlier, but I'm not sure if that'll make it into like the cutting in and out. So you texted, you saw it like not opening day, or did you early bird opening day?
The next day, the Saturday. It opened on like that Thursday night or Friday or whatever, right? So I saw it that following Saturday.
Okay, right
on the first show, and there was like me and like a couple couples. I was by myself because nobody, everybody around me is chicken shit. And
literally everyone around you is just afraid to go.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I gotta say, like, I don't find it frightening. Like, sometimes it's startling.
The book was scarier for me than either of these movies. Like, there's the worst scares are jump scares.
Yeah, which I don't love. I don't jump,
and I jump at those too.
It's all right.
The book filled me with genuine terror. Like when I was going through the book, like that is actual scary to me. Way scarier than either of these movies were. But they're so fucking good. But it was me, a couple couples, and then this family shows up, and they had like 7 kids with them. Whoa. All ranging in ages of like way too young to fucking be there to high school age. And I'm just like, are you fucking kidding me? And then this row of college kids behind me.
I think there's more people there for yours than ours. I don't know if there's... We saw it like
but you
later,
saw, yeah.
And I don't remember what day. Like an afternoon. It's similar, like early morning, afternoon, Saturday thing. But I think by that point, the hardcore audience was not there for that time slot. So like there might have only been 2 other people in the whole theater.
That's awesome.
So I'm glad that there were more for you because I feel like that would add to it.
And I got to the theater that's close to us that I really like to go to has an IMAX screen, and they usually have good shit on that IMAX, like whatever's big at that moment on the IMAX screen, even if it wasn't shot on IMAX.
Oh.
So it was on the IMAX screen, so I got to see it on this big, beautiful screen, which will hopefully that's where we will see Star Wars.
Nice. Nice. You hear that, Twinkie?
Yeah. So
we got to see ours as they call it a monster screen at the theater.
Yeah.
They don't have an IMAX. And yeah, probably similarly, I've seen, I don't know, maybe one other movie that I couldn't name. And that was a nice perk to this.
Yeah.
Plus to see a monster movie on a monster screen, which is like a
Oh no, that's very nice. So and it was yeah, so I sent that and I watched it, and it's 3 hours long. That's another
right. I kind of
weird horror movie thing for a horror movie to be so long. Did not feel like 3 hours to me.
Not to me either. Not at all. I guess it did to the bride a little bit. She's pretty sensitive to that kind of thing. She's like, oh, this is dragging here for any movie.
Yeah.
For some reason, I don't get caught up in that. I think for me, most times in movies, I really get caught up in characters and am happy, like just to hang out with them. Like if I'm enjoying the movie, I'm not troubled by pacing issues. I'm just like in there for the ride. So it did not feel long to me at all. Not at all.
And this is a great one. I love that comparison of like it feels like you're hanging out with the characters. I felt both of these were great for that. Like the first one was like it totally nailed that like 80s kid adventure movie, which is I have a soft spot for in my heart.
Me too, yeah.
And this with the grown-up one was this beautiful ensemble cast of like really great actors, and so who felt like friends. Like they totally nailed that. So it was really easy to just like quote unquote hang out with them, and I told Ash afterwards, I was like, they did such a good job of pairing the adults to match those kids that I thought the guy that played grown up Ben, like that, he could have been his father.
No, that was insane. How good that was.
Like he could have been his father. Like he looked like that chubby kid grown up.
Yeah, and like all
turned into a GQ model. Yeah,
right.
Like turned into a GQ model. Like all those kids, like they look like they're grown-ups. Like it's so weird.
Yeah, the Eddie Kasprick guy like was excellent too.
Yep. And he nailed that kid's character. Like,
yeah.
Because that's the other thing I could think. I would have to think as an adult actor to be told, okay, we need you to play these kids. So you have to step into a character that was literally the foundation was made literally by a child.
Yeah.
And that guy did it. Like him and Bill Hader had that same energy.
Fuck, that was he was the highlight of the movie for me.
Yeah,
I like that guy
absolutely.
Anyway, but Jesus.
Yeah. He nailed it and really, really did a great job of, I don't know, he brought something to that. And then that was a deviation from the book, which we should say spoilers.
Yeah, and I'm a lot of times I like to try to contextualize it so this could be anyone's first, but like fuck it, like we're gonna explain the plot. So like if you need some background on it, we'll give you everything you need in our context in episode 33, and we'll talk about the whole book, the TV miniseries, the first movie. But here we're just talking about part 2.
So that was that was a deviation from the book that the book didn't really touch on. But you find out in this that part of the reason why that chemistry was so good was because there's some repressed feelings. Right?
I did not get that. I did not get that till we were leaving the theater.
Yeah.
I'm so fucking dense. Yeah, I didn't get it.
Even with him like with the heart on Kissing Bridge, you didn't get that?
But I couldn't remember like what that was or what Richie was doing there.
So
but that was a really nice touch. Once I realized that, I thought it was so cool too, because like if you are a hardcore fan of the book, or even just a more, I wouldn't call myself a casual fan, but I only read it the once, I listened to once, whatever. But it felt the same. So sometimes for me, like to introduce a romantic, like in television shows where like these characters are friends and suddenly they're, I'm thinking of specifically like Walking Dead, which I don't want to spoil for you. Anyway, there's a coupling that happens that at first I was like, I don't like that because like I liked the idea that they were like comrades and warriors together, and I just didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
But and I think changed the dynamic. Eventually, I fell in line. But so I love the fact that this Richie Eddie relationship, like romantic relationship or unresolved or one-sided, whatever it may have been. Like I love that exists in this movie without disrupting the dynamic at all that Like it only kind of enhances it a little bit if you're smart and not dumb like me to catch it.
Well, so it wasn't hinted on at all when it was just the kids, like in chapter 1, which I think would have got all kinds of flack if he would have tried to make any of those implications without there being the adult piece to actually solidify it, right?
Yeah.
This is the other reason why I think Chapter 2 is a great movie. He was smart and shot a bunch. He had to have shot all the kids stuff when he shot Chapter 1.
That's what I thought too. And then the bride was like, she's like, that's Princess Leia in Rogue One level of like digital manipulation to like the kids being older. I was like, no, because I didn't notice anything. I thought the same thing. I was like, they had to have filmed this.
I think he shot all that stuff.
Yeah,
just while he shot Chapter 1.
That's what I thought too. So
because they were not aged at all. Have you seen Finn Wolfhard? Like,
I have seen all of Stranger Things 3, by the way, which could be a whole nother.
Oh
deal.
Yeah, jeez.
But he's so much older in that.
So like there was a lot of stuff that he did a lot of press with Bill Hader, like when Chapter 2 came out. There's some YouTube stuff. There's a great one where like Finn Wolfhard. So like Bill Hader's whole thing on the press junket, he kept telling the story over and over again. Is like they were like, so how'd you get roped into it Chapter 2? And he's like, well, I only got it because Finn Wolfhard. Like somebody sent me some interview with him after Chapter 1 came out, and they were like, who would you want to play you as a grown up? And he said Bill Hader, and I'm like, oh, that's really flattering. And then like 3 weeks later, my agent's calling me, and they're like, so they're thinking about calling you in for it Chapter 2, and he's like, this Finn Wolfhard kid's got fucking, like, he's got clout in Hollywood. Like, that's his big joke. And he tells it on, like, every talk show that he was on. But then there's a YouTube video where Finn Wolfhard and Bill Hader kind of interview each other. And, like, I'm sorry, Finn Wolfhard looks like a 17-year-old. And in it Chapter 2, he still looked like, a 12-year-old. So I totally think that he just shot that shit.
I think so too. I hope so. Or he must have, if not during the actual shoot, like immediately thereafter when they.
Yeah, when they knew it was successful enough, like that he had something in their contract to be able to pull them right back. But because they just look the same.
Yeah, which is great. It's really great, and we'll go all the further like when all hopefully it's wrapped into one. Epic story.
Big super cut, right? Oh man, so.
The transitions too. Sorry, I don't have notes for this. I have notes for
that's
everything.
Okay.
But like the transitions caught my attention. Like in terms of like how they moved from person to person at the beginning. Like there was something where like I think it like they were creative in sort of satisfying ways to where you didn't know sometimes what you're looking at, and then you realize you were transitioning to another character that Mike was calling. So like I don't remember, was Stanley probably, because it moved up to the like puzzle pieces in the sky, I think, and it turned out you were like the camera was looking up, like it panned up to the night sky in one shot, and then it transitioned and subtly into like looking up through a coffee table as Stanley Uris was like putting together puzzle pieces before he decided not to join the rest of the group.
Which I thought, I know that there's something similar that happens in the book, but I really love how in the end they really justify, like his letter really justifies his actions.
Yeah.
In a way, like that was Stanley. So here's why I think this was all masterful. Stanley committing suicide was the kid orgy. That's how they justify.
Unified them. I see.
He's like, the only way I knew you guys would be strong enough to do this is if you had a reason to do it. And so I, being the like weakest link, I took myself off the board. And so he did it as a sacrifice to bring them as a like catalyst to bring them all together.
Oh, that's amazing. That's very like masterful, right?
Yeah. Like just.
Did you hear that somewhere else, or come up with that on your own?
No, I came up with that on my own. But he like you. So you see, Bill Denbrough gets the letter, right? Like and you see the flashback of Stanley Uris before he goes in the bathtub. Because in the book, he just like hangs up the phone and goes into the bathroom and commits suicide.
Yeah.
And in this, it's implied like he got that call and he made this conscious decision. Like he's like, this needs to happen. This is what the universe is telling me I need to do to be supportive for my friends. And so then he writes 6, because 7's a powerful number. He was the 7th one.
Yeah.
He writes 6 suicide notes, basically, because Mike calls him and he's like, did you get your mail today? And he's like, oh, no, I didn't. Because Mike had already, and he was holding his letter from Stanley. He's like, you should check your mail. And then the letter's there. And then Bill gets to read it. And that Stanley lays that all out. He's like, I knew that this needed to, like, you guys needed as much hope or something like that of success. And so you needed a way, and I would have been a weak link. So I just took myself off the board. And it's this implication, like, he knew that sacrifice would help give them power.
Yeah.
And
oh, that's beautiful.
So, in my opinion, that was a way, because I always felt that in the book and the 90s miniseries, you really felt like Stanley was this forgotten character because he didn't have an adult presence other than this guy committing suicide. Like I remember that being the opening scene for the 90s miniseries, was because he scrawls it in blood, right? Like
I forgot.
Yeah. Okay. And so like that's your introduction to Stanley Uris in the miniseries, and in the book when they go through all the adult characters, like he commits suicide like almost instantly. Like he gets up and hangs up the phone and goes and commits suicide. And so it's just, I think there might be allusions to that being a catalyst to bring them together, but not really. It's always like he did it because he was the weak one. Like he was the one that was always afraid, like the most afraid, right?
Yeah.
And
I like how they did the Eddie stuff too, to where like he would often like Eddie would kind of Eddie would be the kind of weaker one, and he would beat himself up about it, and he'd be like, I can't go because I can't help you.
Yeah.
And I love that thing with Richie where he's like, who's the guy that like, destroyed a whatever giant clown? He's like, you have. He's like, you're braver than you think. It was like, I don't know, I like that too. But if you're just like juxtaposing Eddie then as the weak one who's stronger than he thinks he is, then and Stanley, perhaps couldn't have made it.
Yeah, exactly. And definitely not the Stanley from the book or the 90s miniseries, but I feel like he really did because you also have the scene with Stanley as a kid at his bar mitzvah.
Yeah.
Like,
which was a deleted scene. I looked at the Blu-ray I didn't rewatch the movie from 17 yet, but I did look at the Blu-ray and the deleted scene, and that is definitely from that same day.
And like he stands up for himself. Yeah, and he stands up for himself and he like and it gives this strength to the Stanley character. Like he's not just like, he's a storytelling pawn in the book, in the 90s miniseries. And in this, I really felt like they gave that character some justification, some reason for his actions, and some, again, a masterful stroke, because it muddies this idea of, well, then is it like straight suicide? Was he weak? If he knew this is what it took, maybe that was the strongest decision he could have made, like.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I love this theory too about it taking the place of the dramatic element of them needing to reunify and bypassing the sex scene for it. How did you feel about, so we talked about some of the casting. I have to admit, I have a bit of a bias against James McAvoy and Jessica Chastain just as actors.
Me too.
I don't like them. Like, I'm not compelled by them. I don't generally like them. I liked him, McAvoy, I guess, more in this than her. I would so love to have seen Amy Adams as adult Beverly. I think that would have been stronger.
I think that would have been great, but I think that, so here's my take on it. Do you remember when chapter 1 came out, one of the biggest complaints that people had was like Mike got really shuffled to the back. He really didn't get his full story.
Oh yeah, and his story got a little changed. Like
it did get changed a lot. I feel like the director took that to heart, and even though James McAvoy and Jessica Chastain, when they were signed, were the two biggest names on that docket, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't think they got. I did not see them as like standout leading characters. Even in the chapter 1, I feel like Bev was definitely the center of all those boys' attention. Yeah, it was not the case in this. There was that like one scene
of that.
Yeah, there was like that one scene where she kisses Bill, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, and they did not have sex, which that's another icky point of the book and the miniseries that I don't like, because he's in love with his wife in England, right? And she's in this terrible fucking relationship, and they both sleep with each other in the midst of all this fucking shit going down. Like this 3-day bender of them trying to kill this fucking insane interdimensional clown, right?
Yeah.
And they decide to have sex in the middle of it, which is just so fucking, it's so, They don't do that in this book. I like that they just kiss once, and you can see it in both of their eyes because they are good actors, where it's just like, yeah, this isn't the thing that we were looking for.
Yeah.
Which I really like that choice that they made. Like,
I forgot about that. Yeah, that is good. I that did trouble me. Like, I feel like that kind of thing happened a lot in early, like in the Stephen King stuff in the mid '80s, like the Dead Zone. Yeah. Stuff. People just like making bad decisions in that regard, and I don't know. The Bride had a great, just like casting suggestion for that I thought would have been different. It's like, so she thought a great grown-up Beverly would be Fairuza Balk. Like you have to see him. Like, it took me a second, but if you look at the young actress, who to me looks exactly like a young Amy Adams, who I don't also find especially compelling, but I like better than Jessica Chastain.
Who's Fairuza?
Ruining my chances of working with or being friends with those two actresses, whatever.
Oh yeah, no, I can totally see
there,
her. Yeah,
but I feel like Bev needs to be a little bit more classically beautiful for this. I don't know, to be like the center of this love triangle and whatnot. But
I know why Jessica Chastain is off-putting for you and some people, and I don't think I saw any of those things. None of those things were ticks that stuck out to me.
Yeah, she doesn't like movie. bother me. I just like, it's just so flat for me. I just don't really respond to her like I do.
That fucking old lady scene, where she goes back to her apartment. Man, so that was one of those scare, like one of the times I jumped that wasn't really a jump scare, because you hear the like doof, 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 and that sound's already been permeated in this movie. Like, you hear that thumping sound multiple times.
Yeah.
From in different ways, in different forms that he's taken. So you hear that doof, 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 and you don't know what's gonna come out, and it's fucking her as like a 10-foot tall naked fucking witch.
That
like,
scared me. Yep,
oh my gosh, that was so fucking scary. Oh, it was awesome.
How did you feel about some of the? So the Bride said something too, where, because she hadn't read the book or anything like that, and she had seen part 1 with me, but she was saying, like, I could kind of tell that it came from this certain period of time. It seemed like certain effects, like, that might have occurred there, or with the spider thing toward the end, like certain effects she felt like were probably relics of the original source material and felt kind of dated, like the kind of thing you don't see in movies now.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I agree, but I was actually just happy that they did that stuff and kind of honored it and didn't change it too much. I don't know. How did you feel about that whole thing? Were they?
So I actually, this is another thing. Like, I think the didn't like the ending joke is a direct reference to it, because I'm in that category that thinks the fucking ending is atrocious, that it's a giant spider. That's how it's portrayed in the book. Yeah, the true form of Pennywise is this like giant spider. They say in the book that's what your mind sees because that's all it can comprehend.
Yeah.
That's the closest thing that it can comprehend.
Mm-hmm.
That's an allusion to that, the H.P. Lovecraft, like great old ones, they're this interdimensional being. And the miniseries, they just do a direct, it is a spider, like a literal, like it doesn't look anything like fucking Pennywise. And I always have said that ending fucking is terrible. Like, and I think that's where that joke that I didn't like the ending comes from. But I thought that it was a great way to keep that original source material. It looked like Pennywise with 8 legs. Mm-hmm. Like that. That's so smart. Like it's so, and you get to see, because his true form, his true actual form is the deadlights. That's
oh yeah. Oh, that's upsetting the way they show that.
That's and it's like through his head, like which implied like he doesn't actually eat you. You pass through him, his physical form, and like
And I forgot, like, so Is that the same in the book where Bev saw that as a kid and so thus saw all of their deaths? Or is that
no? That I don't remember that being in the book. There's definitely this psychic thing happens in the book where they like are kind of connected and they regain that as adults. Like
I thought that was a very clever thing about the book in general because it seems to deal a bit with memory and the sort of purity of youth and the bonds you form there. Yeah. And then you kind of drift apart potentially as adults. But that whole remembering being a big part of it. It was both like as a story device useful in like people remembering things, but it's also kind of interesting to extrapolate to non-supernatural circumstances.
I thought the choices that he made with all of that were smart. I like that they didn't involve his wife, like they didn't bring Bill's wife back when like she's in her catatonic state.
Yeah.
They took out the whole Tom subplot, like her abusive husband. I even thought they did a great job with bringing Henry Bowers back, like that, like he was in it, like in the book, he felt like this burden that King just kept like once he brought him into the story, I did feel like he just like every time it would start to go towards the loser's way, you'd be like, you would get used to it in the book. You'd be like, well, Henry Bowers is going to show up right here, or Tom's going to show up right here because things are going too good for them as adults.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought in the movie, like the Henry Bowers stuff was just perfect. Like he showed up at just the right times. He did just what he was supposed to do. They took him out just as they were supposed to. And they didn't have Bill's wife come over from England and like see it and get catatonic and then have to go down the hill. And
about that,
like they didn't do any of that, which I thought was smart. And this is a 3-hour fucking long movie. Like he could have put all this shit in there,
and
right?
That stuff is in the miniseries to some extent.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. Like they somehow in that 3-hour thing, the miniseries encapsulated. Yeah, they like included things that didn't. I don't know, but like this didn't feel. It didn't feel shortchanged.
Because he just focused on the characters. That's what I like. He just stayed on that plot, on their connection, and trying to rekindle what they had as kids, which turned it into a grown-up kid adventure movie, right? Like
yes. Oh, that's great.
There were some really scary fucking parts. The witch scene, the funhouse scene with in the book, there's the skateboard kid that Bill sees.
There is that. I was wondering. I didn't remember, and I felt like that whole funhouse thing and that kid was some sort of device invented by the movie. But so there was a certain like.
Remember when he gets to Derry, and he ends up connecting with this kid who he just meets on the street. And he's got a skateboard, and he's headed towards up Mile Hill, and the kid's gonna ride, implying the kid's gonna ride the skateboard down up Mile Hill.
And that's the same one that they ride the bike
down. Yeah. And he's like, hey, at the last second, he tells the kid with the skateboard, he's like, hey, be careful on that thing. And the kid says, he's like, that's not the point, man. Like,
oh, that's just like your opinion, man.
Yeah. So,
I forgot about that.
But that's what helps Bill re-find his kidness, because then he finds Silver, and he that's what helps him reconnect and remember all the stuff. And so that this kid is supposed to be that skateboard kid that grown-up Bill keeps encountering in his time in Derry. But that scene, two things. The scene in the funhouse where they're in this maze, this plexiglass maze, and he is separated from the kid, and Pennywise is on the other side of him. So it's like Bill, plexiglass, the kid, plexiglass, Pennywise.
Yeah.
And all of them can see Pennywise. Like the kid and Bill can see Pennywise. And Pennywise has this like gross tongue. He licks the plexiglass because he wants to get the kid. And the whole point is he's going to kill this kid in front of Bill to essentially send a warning, which he also does in the book. He sends all of them warnings as adults, leave.
Yeah, which that takes time to do, which I think is important that they did that, where they were all separate and it had their encounters. But obviously that's going to contribute to a 3-hour movie. But I'm so glad that they honored that and included that.
And that's the piece that I think he was like, this is what we take from the grown-up portion of the book. We'll leave out this other shit because I need this, and I need them to all have their own half hour, that, and that's
to get convinced, really.
Yeah. And so that was another really scary, that did get my anxiety up a little bit, just because that was, what's going to happen. I just had in the last couple days, because I've been thinking about this conversation and what we might talk about. And I was thinking about what scenes scared me from the movie, and that was one of them. The witch scene was the other one that really got me anxious. They weren't just jump scares. And I was thinking about this scene, and I'm like, so that kid just gets abducted. He's a weird guy that he sees outside of his house and scares. That kid probably talked
Bill,
to his parents about,
yelling,
Bill,
don't go near that.
Yeah, that great. Yeah, that's terrifying. And then the kid tells him he's going to the fair later, and then this guy shows up at the fair.
Yeah.
They both see them go in, all these fucking people see him go into the funhouse and then see him running out of the funhouse in a town that has all these people disappearing already. How did he not get picked up?
Right.
In this modern day and age, that was the one suspension of disbelief 3 days ago, after a month later of seeing this movie, that I'm just like, wait a second. There's no fucking way that a security camera didn't pick him up.
Yeah.
With the interacting with this kid in that funhouse, and he was instantly in the jail.
I wonder too if the writers saw Us, the movie Us, and we're like, should we change this? Because there is that's where the switch happens, right? In Us, that kind of a funhouse, Hall of Mirrors type deal, where it's like a carnival and the kid goes in, one kid goes in, their tethered comes out.
No, but I mean, it's Pennywise though. That's the big separation.
Yeah, no. It's just, it feels similar. There's a similar scene in some ways in the Hall of Mirrors or something carnival-esque in Stranger Things. It reminds me of the Dragon. It's a kind of a. Yeah.
So that's a lot of our people our age are making all this shit. So
Tango and Cash.
Tango and Cash. Maybe Tango and Cash has a Hall of Mirrors thing. That's awesome.
At the end, oh god, that movie's great.
I think that's a trope. If you're gonna have a carnival in some movie or show or whatever, you go to the funhouse, which I can only think of so here's the thing. As a kid, that trope was so I just assumed there would be funhouses at every amusement park and carnival that you went to. And come to find out, they're really hard to find. There's not And the ones that you do find are just on like a double wide trailer at a carnival that take 2 seconds to go through. And so.
I just thought of more kind of things that I was glad they included, but I thought they would have changed for the modern retelling, like in the Chinese restaurant where things start to come out of the fortune cookies, like in a way that's kind of like cheesy and stuff, but I was happy to see it there. I don't know. I thought it really.
And there
did a
were
great
some.
job
I love that there were a lot of homages and all of that little extra shit. So like when those fortune cookies all opened up, like one of those is the eye from The Eye or The Eyeball or whatever, that 1950s horror movie that Stephen King is like. He still talks about as like one of the scariest movies he's ever seen.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
In the book, Eddie sees that movie because it's in this, like, it takes place when Stephen King, in the book, it's when Stephen King was that age.
Yeah.
That's how he writes it. And so Eddie had just seen The Eye, and that's how Pennywise came to him when he was a kid and tried to kill him, was as an eye. Because you know how they all had their run-in with Pennywise? That's what kind of draws them together a little bit. And that was Eddie's. He sees the eye because one of them uses their inhaler, because Eddie uses his inhaler on the eye. That's the magic that gets them past that thing, so they can go deeper in the sewer. Because one of them had just seen that scary movie, and that's what Pennywise took. It had to have been Eddie, but Eddie's original thing that he saw was I was a teenage werewolf.
Yeah, I love that, and I couldn't find it. Like, I rewatched the special features of the 2017 movie, but not the movie itself.
Yeah,
and now I don't know where I saw this, but there's some sort of behind the scenes thing related to talking about it, in which Stephen King was talking about wanting to incorporate all the different monsters as well.
Yeah.
So they didn't quite carry, I don't know where it was, and I can't quite track it, but that's one of the remnants I recall, because there is that teenage werewolf thing. So he was able to do like a werewolf thing, and there's the various kind of monster, universal type monsters that I grew up loving.
And there's one shot in they have an homage to him being Pennywise being a werewolf in the chapter 1.
Oh.
I think it's the scene when they're all in the kitchen the first time that they're at the house, and Pennywise comes out of the refrigerator. When he's walking towards them, you see his hand bursts, and it's like a wolfman for like a split second. Yes. Before there's too many of them in the room, and he doesn't know which form to take. But
I'm trying to see who played, because in seeing the behind the scenes stuff for the first movie, Jack Dylan Grazer played the young Eddie Kaspbrak, and just as Bill Hader kind of steals the movie for me for the chapter 2, that kid is so great. Like, he's so great. I love him so much.
The new kid stuff, and
he has such a. I don't know. Yeah, honestly, I guess all the kids are kind of great. They are perfectly chosen for who they're meant to be, and for the most part, I would say the adults follow suit. Like I said, there's those two problematic actors for me, but I in watching the behind the scenes stuff too. I feel like there's a lot more Pennywise in that first movie, or maybe I was just getting that from the special features, but it really made me appreciate what Bill Skarsgård was doing all the more. Talking about all this really does make me want to watch that part 1 again, and like be able to roll right into part 2. Oh, I want this supercut. I need this supercut.
Yep. Well, and I think the whole like Pennywise is in the first one more is like, if you think about it, he's even in the book and the miniseries, that's the case. But when the kid stuff is interspersed with the adult stuff, you get Pennywise spread out through that. But when they're adults, he's scared of them. He's trying to, that's why he's always separating himself from them until he's sure that he can do damage by separating them in his domain. Right?
Yeah. They're less likely to be afraid of him too as adults.
Yeah. As a group, right?
Yeah, as a group, and then as grown people.
And then as grown people. So a lot of the time with them being grown-ups is him sending warnings to stay away and to go away and to not be here, and here's this horrible thing I'm going to show you. Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah. Great. I don't know. Great fucking movie.
Oh yeah. No, and as a pair, they are as satisfying as Kill Bill 1 and 2, and as connected.
Yep.
Does I couldn't quite remember. I was like starting to doubt it, and it is so faithful to the spirit of the book, all of that the deviations I got kind of confused as to they all felt so right that I wasn't sure. I mean, I knew there wasn't a romantic thing between Richie and Eddie in the book, but and like I mentioned, I didn't quite catch that in the movie until I walked out. But did Ben and Beverly end up together in the book? Okay. I couldn't quite remember.
That was the other reason why I thought it was so shitty that her and Bill slept with each other, and then she runs off with Ben.
Yeah.
So he gets Bill's sloppy seconds twice. Like that's bullshit.
Don't say sloppy seconds in relation to that person.
Oh yeah, so shit. I didn't even think. I just meant like he had to play second fiddle to Bill when they were kids because it's just like worse. It's just getting worse.
It's so upsetting.
Yeah.
Oh, why'd he do it? Why did he write it? Why couldn't he?
I don't know.
Think better of it. Stephen King. I love too that, and actually the bride caught it first. His cameo. She saw. She recognized it from the back of his head. Like she goes when he's like in the pawn shop, and I look over at her, not knowing what's going on exactly, and then it like reverses the angle, and there he is. But it's so fun to have him saying the thing about the endings.
Oh yeah, and I love the like you can afford it, like because know he deals with that shit. Like know he deals with that shit.
Yeah.
That big rider.
Great accent too.
I own it now. How much for it? 300. You can afford it.
Yeah.
Like so fucking good.
I guess what I miss. I hadn't seen like there's that he's in a lot. I don't know how many of the movies, but I'd been on a bit of I was looking at my annual media list, and Christine is the only Stephen King book that I read or listened to this year. So I've seen less, but it was awesome to see him again and remind him. And I'm listening right now to our friends from the Pod Bros. Last year, they did a 31 days of horror movies, like kind of lesser known horror movies. I mean, I say that and then I mentioned this movie, but they did Creepshow among them. And it's like John and Jeff that we know, and then another friend of theirs. But I just listened to them talk about Creepshow and, of course, Stephen King in Creepshow. Like, that's probably his biggest role, right? He's meteor shit.